Hey, beautiful people. It is Demarra West, and you are listening to the Be Well, Beautiful People podcast, the show that inspires you to live your best joy filled life by centering healing and liberation above all. For today's episode, I have the honor of interviewing Kukuwa. I call her actually Mama Kuks, so that's what we're going to call her for the interview. She's the founder and CEO of Kukuwa Fitness, Africa with Us, and the Africa with Us Foundation. And I've been privileged to actually share space with her in terms of Africa with Us, which we're going to be talking about in just a little bit. Born and raised in beautiful Ghana, West Africa, Mama Kuks has been dancing since the age of 3, and dance has been an integral part of her life ever since. She is an internationally recognized dance fitness consultant, a choreographer, and a holistic wellness advocate who has taught at major universities, worked with global organizations, and even led fitness sessions for First Lady Michelle Obama during the Obama administration. Mama Kuks, as I shared before, I affectionately know her as, and you will also affectionately know her as, is in her 60s, but moves like a woman in her 30s, encouraging others to live their best lives through health and fitness the Kukuwa way by moving their boomsy. I love that term. Further, her transformative trips to Africa, Kukuwa Fitness instructor training, and online wellness programs that reach people worldwide further amplifies her massive impact. Mama Kuks is also a multilingual, former linguistic and UN affiliated translator, an author of 4 acclaimed books, a philanthropist, and a passionate cultural ambassador, not to mention the mother to 2 beautifully powerful women who work with her side by side, Cassandra and Samantha. Today, we're going to be diving into her journey, the power of movement, and the importance of reclaiming our well-being through African dance, culture, and holistic healing. But before we do, let's ground into this quote by Maya Angelou. Everything in the universe has rhythm. Everything dances. Hey, Mama Kooks, I'm so glad that you're with me today.
Wow, wow. It's an honor to be here. You-
When you hear those words about you, you know your life, right? But like hearing all of the things about your journey in this high level way, I'm sure it just like warms your heart space and maybe even blows your mind some.
It does. It does. You're right. It does. And I'm wondering, okay, how old am I? When did I do all that?
Listen, and it goes to show you, right? When we are saying yes to life, we can do an abundance of things. And we're going to be talking about your amazing journey, which has just blown my mind since the first moment that I spoke with you. And so let's start with this. You've been dancing since the age of 3, as we talked about. Share with us the role that dance played in your early years in Ghana and when you realized it was more than just movement for you, but also a tool for healing and transformation.
Okay. So I start where I was born in Ghana, West Africa, and at the age of 2, almost 3, and I say 3 because that's when fully it happened. My mother had said that she thought I was a boy when she was pregnant with me, and the reason is because I was moving so much in her stomach that she said, "Wait, this one's a boy. I have an older sister. We're 7 siblings, but I'm number 2." So,
Mhm.
and of course, when I came out, she said, "Wait." Then I'm always listen. She listened to music. I'm dancing. I'm moving. She said, "I think I know what happened." She was choreographing in my stomach because I
Mm.
see this is what she loves to do. But of
Mhm.
course, education meant so much to my parents that they made sure we went to school, had our education, because in the olden days, or even today,
Mhm.
dancing in your mind, it's not really what brings your bread and butter, but it's changed. It's changed in
Mhm.
a big way. So yes, I started at the age of 3. My great grandmother was 120. She lived in the village of Ghana, and she was a dancer. My grandmother was a dancer. My mother was a dancer. So of
Mm.
course, it came down to me, to my children, to my siblings, and so on and so forth. So I've been dancing literally since the age of 3. I thought I could make that a career, that
Mhm.
I could dance with it. But in Ghana, it was literally part of the culture. So it was
Mhm.
literally frowned on that that's not your career, but that is
Mhm.
part of your life. And so for me, in my
Mm.
vision that I thought I could dance all my life, it
Yeah.
was not the case. I had to go to school for linguistics, learn
Mhm.
my 8 languages, learn my languages, do translations. I had to make a living. But
Mm.
deep down inside of me, the burning passion was I needed to move my boomsie, meaning I
Yes.
needed to dance. And
Mhm.
so that's now to this time, I now have built a company that is involving dancing. And we'll
Mhm.
get to that more, but I want to stop here just so that people you can ask me more questions.
Yeah, I love this. So, like, you had me at everything, but when you said that your grandmother lived to be 120,
Yes, yes.
120. And
120.
these are the things that these are the stories that we oftentimes don't hear. And we're going to be getting into indigenous healing practices and dance being one of them a little bit later. But I just had to like put a pin. Like I had to highlight that. Like I couldn't keep going past
Right.
this idea that your grandmother lived vibrantly until the age of 120,
And
which
that's
is unheard of in terms of the stories that we get told, right? And
yes,
so, and we're going to be talking about why we don't know some of these stories a little bit later, which you and I have dove into in
yes.
the past. So what I want to also say is that there was something that struck me about how you talked about dance being passed down from generation to generation, much like we think about food or we
Yes,
think about language, like it's a cultural, a traditional practice. And
yes,
so because it was just a way that you all engaged in life with each other, this idea that you could actually make a living, a
yes.
fruitful living on it was so far removed from that thinking. And I imagine that that also meant that you didn't know anyone who was Ghanaian who made a living the way that you have from the starting point of dance, essentially.
No, correct, correct. It's part of our livelihood. Dancing is
Mm.
part of our livelihood. When there is a baby is born, when there's an engagement, when there is a family reunion, when there is even death, and all kinds of reasons that come up in life, we celebrate
Mm.
with music and dance. So even
Yes.
even I mentioned funeral, you will see us dancing and celebrating because to us the person is going home. So it is a celebration. So dance has been part of my integral life ever since I was born. So for
Yeah.
me to start thinking of making a living, it was frowned upon. And people were laughing at me as my children would say, "Ma, they're laughing at you like you wanted to do this and today look at you." I said, "Well, then when I was young, even my siblings thought I was a daydreamer. Oh, come on, you got to go to school. Mom and dad always want us to go to school. Stop this dancing thing. We all dance. So how you going to make
Mm.
a living out of it?" So this
Yeah.
is the mindset. It was not really something that was going to take care of you, but rather
Mhm.
just an integral part of your livelihood as a Ghanaian.
Wow. Yeah. So, and I love that there was something in you that couldn't put it on the shelf permanently. That there was a part of you that certainly you veered off, in part because this was the support that you were given. And if you were gonna like you're gonna make a great living for yourself. And like this whole like we're not paying for you to go to school to be a dancer, right? We're gonna pay you to do linguistics because
Yeah.
we know that you can make a lot of money in this space. And I'm sure that you did, and you had a great deal of success. But there was a point in time, I imagine, where you knew for certain that continuing to go down that pathway was no longer going to be what was going to fulfill you. And maybe it never did. So, talk to us about that pivotal moment when you knew for certain that you could no longer go down that trajectory.
Okay. So for me, it was a burning passion,
Mm-hmm.
working with the international organizations and doing translations was not the answer for me. It was actually the way of life living, you know,
Mm-hmm.
making sure my bills were paid, making sure that I had a good, comfortable living. But deep
Mm-hmm.
down in my soul, in my spirit, there was this burning passion. I have to dance. I have to move my
Mm-hmm.
boomsie. And
Yes.
I veered into it. And when I left Ghana, I went to school in Europe, in Paris. And
Mm-hmm.
then still it was burning in me, even though I was still working with organizations. I started working with embassies and
Mm-hmm.
still doing translations, but somewhere down between Paris and when I got to the US, something said, look into introducing African dance to the people. But
Mm-hmm.
then I looked at, and I'm going to date myself because, as you said, I'm in my 60s, Jane Fonda, Richard
Mm-hmm.
Simmons, those times when I got here
Mm-hmm.
to the States, I said, why are they jumping? Why are they, kicking legs up? What are they doing?
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't they dancing? And I said, I want to make a difference. And I started teaching at the World Bank and the main organizations that I was teaching at, and even some of the gyms that did not know anything about dance, fitness. I started
Mm-hmm.
and I brought it in and I introduced it. My classes went from literally 10 to 20 to 30 to 40, 100 people were in my classes. Like,
Oh.
what is this phenomenon? What is this? We feel joy when we come into your class. We feel like a superstar when we come into your class, even
Mm-hmm.
though we're not professional dancers. What is this? And
Yeah.
it started, the word started spreading. And then I birthed this African dance fitness from way when, but it was not popular. It was not popular then in those times. Today, as
Wow.
you know, it is. But in those times, we're talking 1980s, right? It was not as popular. But I said, I'm going to make a difference. And
Yeah.
that's what did it for me.
And so we could argue that you were the pioneer
Yeah.
in some ways of bringing African dance and creating this movement around African dance. But even more than that, like having it be an entry point for people from all walks of life to garner the joy that comes from dancing, which helps, of course, our physical fitness.
Yes.
And I can attest to the fact that, traveling with you all, with Africa with us, meeting for our very first trip, which was phenomenal, y'all. Last October, going to Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia. We're going to be traveling together again. In fact, I've said anytime I go to Africa, this is the place that I'm going to be. But in part because Kukuwa Fitness classes you offer them as a part of the experience, which is
Yeah.
so special. And so I had never done your fitness classes before, and I don't think I missed one the entire time that I was there because I had so much fun. And even though it kicked my butt, it kicked my butt, right? And in fact, at times you would say, "Oh, this is nothing," and I'm thinking, "Oh, well, this feels like something to me." But it was so fun that I didn't want to stop. It didn't matter the exhaustion because I was having such a good time listening to great music, the high energy that you and Cass brought to the classes just made my travel experience that much more amazing. And now you are offering your classes virtually, so anyone can access your classes worldwide.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We put words together to describe what we do with our fitness because our fitness is not just get in there and just move your body, but we said Kukuwa Fitness is more than a workout. It's a celebration of life, energy, and culture rooted in the
Mm.
rhythms of Africa. Our movement awakens the joy that already lives inside of you. Every step, every sway, every beat is an invitation to connect with yourself, your body, and a global community that moves with purpose. We
So
put that.
that is such a beautiful statement. And there's a lot that's coming up for me around healing and liberation, right? And particularly when I think about the US and how many people in the US don't engage in dance, right?
Right.
Particularly unstructured dance.
Yes.
There is something that feels probably very vulnerable to people. So there's a way that we've been socialized in the US that defies the natural rhythm that our bodies are supposed to be accustomed to. And so
Yes.
when you talk about this reclaiming, right,
Yes.
coming one with self
Mhm.
through movement
Yes.
is, I believe, an idea that is far removed from how many people think about dance, right? And the power of dance.
Right.
And so for individuals who are reluctant to engage in this practice, because dance is seen as a yogic practice.
Mhm.
It's an indigenous practice. It's a spiritual practice.
Yes.
And yet our connection to it is, there's not an association with these things typically. And
Right.
so how do we make those associations so that we can inspire more people to engage in the full rhythm of life, right? I feel like dance helps to unlock something that other practices don't.
Yes, yes, correct. Dance actually comes from within, not the outside. Though you see us moving arms, body, head, and all your whole body, it's really resonating from within. Why?
Mm,
Because when you hear the African music or the African drums, it literally resonates within your spirit. Your spirit. If you've
mm,
noticed with African dance, we dance barefoot. So you're
mhm.
already feeling the ground, which is motherland. You're connecting with the ground that then resonates, rises up and resonates in your spirit for you to be able to move. So you feel like you're in a trance, if I can use that word. Like you're enjoy. So then the enjoyment comes, the joy comes from that. And so when people do our workout and they think dance, somebody for the first time might come in and think, okay, dance. But when they come in from the very moment which you did
Mhm.
experience, you realize, wow, why am I smiling? Why am I happy? What is this? The music, the movement, and it all resonates from within. When I say
Yes.
within, is because you can't touch it, but you can feel it. And
Well, and
so,
that from within part is really the spiritual aspect.
yes,
And
yes,
so,
yes,
certainly what was resonant were all the things that I said, but also because I actually am in opposition to a lot of structured dancing. So when I hear me, I'm always listening. And if I could be in a restaurant, I could be in my car, I could be literally walking down the street and hear
mhm,
something and like my body just starts to move. But I
yes,
think part of that is because of my spiritual practices that I use to ground in myself. But even long before I knew much about spirituality or healing and liberation, or been, even before I became a therapist, there was something about hearing music because of the frequency that called me in. And I think that's in part what you're naming. And the
yes,
reason why many people can't answer the call or can't hear the call is because there's some blockage that's happening within them, both mentally and energetically, because they're one and the same, essentially,
yes.
that prevents us from doing something so natural.
Yes, and this is why this workout is so different. You come in and you're blocked, but as you're dancing, however, all of a sudden, you either see people crying or you see people going, ah, oh, I get it. Why? Because it's finally touching from within. Whilst you're in that session of a class, it's eventually going to touch you and grab you from within, and you're going to let go. You're going to be like, whoa, what is this? That's the magic. That's the magic,
Yes.
if I may use that word, you
Oh,
know?
I love this. I love the word magic and all kinds of other words that are in
Yes,
alignment with magic, right? And
yes,
what just occurred to me, and I'm going to do some research on this, is that I think the reason why we're having this experience is when I think about movement, we're moving every part of the
yes,
body.
yes,
And right. And so when I think about my sacral, as I move my hips, as I I'm stirring that part of me as my heart space moves, right? Like as my upper chest, I'm
Yes,
stirring that part of me. And
I
then that trance, like I've felt this on numerous occasions. There's this outside space here in Detroit, and they have this DJ and it's an outside party. And so I've been out there by myself, like in my own zone. It's like Demarra's bubble, right? And my eyes are closed. And because I'm having a spiritual experience that is a
yeah,
very individualized one. And I think, again, I'm having this moment of realizing the reason why is because we're activating so much of our inner world
yes.
as this outer experience is entering in.
Yes, yes. No, you've explained it so very well. One thing I do need to add to it, African dance is a total body workout. I hear the word total body workout for a lot of dances. No, it's not true. African dance is
Mm,
a total body workout because watch me for 1 minute. When I'm
yes.
moving my arm, my head is moving and I'm bringing it down. So your neck
Mm,
is moving, your head is moving. When I move my arm to the, it's going in the same direction. You're moving your head and your neck, which is attached to your body. So you're moving every component of your body within the dance. And
mm,
that's only African dance, only. And I've done my research. And, being the fact that I do teach African dance and culture and have taught for so many years in the universities, this is the only dance because you and I know genres of, ballet and even
mm.
Latin American dances or whatever dances there are out there. That African dance grounds you and it moves the entire total component of your body.
So this is, I want to make sure that the listeners heard this, that African dance, based on the research you've done, is
Yes.
the only form of dance that
Yes.
gives you a total body workout.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, total. And I use the word total because remember, dance is dance. You've got to use parts of your body. But are you using the entire total body parts? That's
Yes.
in dance.
And so, although dancers, of course, are conditioning the whole body in order to prepare them to engage in whatever genre of dance that they are doing, the
Yes.
actual dancing itself
Yes.
doesn't actually do the whole body work.
Right. No, no, it doesn't. It's missing certain pieces. And
Yes.
you look at every ethnic group out there or every cultural group out there, you can look into their dance backgrounds and dances that they do. It all comes back to African dance being the total body workout. We even have a dance where your eyebrow it's a doa, and when you dance you're moving your head, you're moving your eyes, it's speaking because every movement we do has a meaning, by the way. And so you're moving this, you're moving expression, the whole.
Wow. And you
Mhm.
know what I'm wondering? Like, there's all kinds of things that are coming up for me, which I know that I may have to have you back, right?
Yeah.
But when I think about that eye movement, I think about
Yes,
rapid eye movement. And
yes.
I'm wondering if that form of dance is actually connected to rapid eye movement and what happens to the brain, because it's a modality that supports us in rewiring, which is a part of a practice that we can use in terms of trauma recovery.
Right. And harping on that, during the pandemic, when we were reaching millions of people who were at home and we were online, we have an online platform we'll talk about. But I just want to share two major testimonies with you to actually back what you've just said. There was
Mm.
a lady who used to be a dancer and she had a car accident and ended up in a wheelchair, and so sad she wanted to end her life. And then and pandemic was worse. You're indoors, where are you going, what are you doing? And then she's flipping TV, and guess what? She found us and she on YouTube, and she goes, wait, what is this? And we were really moving every part of our body and the music just resonating the spirit. She woke up. She says, wait, I love this. She was spinning her wheelchair and doing all this. She wrote us back and she said, I want to live now. You have brought a whole new chapter into my life. I feel like I can walk and dance again, even in my wheelchair. That's one testimony. The other testimony was a lady who had mental issues. She was just so many problems going on with her mental and psyche, as they say. And so she was actually taking out medication and seeing a therapist and the whole 9 yards. She found us during the pandemic and she started doing it. And she said that for some reason, this is healing. What is this
Mm.
doing to me? It's getting into my brain. I'm feeling, wow, I'm just shooting it out. I don't care if I'm not dancing like them, but I'm just moving every part of my body. I'm feeling fabulous. What is this? She wrote
Mm.
to us and told us what we had done for her. They took her off her medication. She is now a member on our online. She's with us. She says, I don't have any mental issues again. When I'm in whatever is going on, whatever problems is going on in my life, I want to dance and get it out.
So this there's so much, and I'm definitely going to have you back if you'll have me, because I'll have you, of
Of
course,
course,
always,
of
as you
course.
know. Um, First, I want to say I am so grateful that you shared those stories with us, like, because it's no small feat when you're talking about someone nearly taking their life and
Yeah.
finding you
Mhm.
and saying yes to life again, right? Like, that's everything. And many people would never associate dance with the kind of liberation that you just described.
Right.
And so, yes, dance is fun. Yes, all the things. And we are talking about the full integration back into self. We're talking about helping people to find their truth again. And that
Yes.
there, and the truth is that no matter what kind of limitations that we've had leading up to a certain point, we can reset. What I'm hearing you say is that dance is a vehicle to help to reset the mind, the body, and the spirit
Yes.
towards thriving.
Yes. Absolutely.
And I'm
Yes.
sure there's so much data out there. And so I think I'm gonna have you come back and we're just gonna talk about the power of dance. Okay. So
Okay.
like
Okay.
we have another day, Mama Kuks. We have
Okay.
another day.
Have
And
another
so,
day.
okay, that said, let's talk about now your trademark tagline. It encourages people to move their boomsy.
Yes.
Beyond just a fun phrase, what does that mean on a deeper level? And I feel like we've explored some of that, but is there anything else that you want to say about what that means on a deeper level and why this kind of movement is so liberating?
Okay.
And again, I feel like we touched on a lot of it already, but is there anything else that you want to add about that?
So that gives me the opportunity to explain before I get to the boomsi.
Mhm.
Kukuwa, my name, in Swahili, it means to grow. So
Mm.
when I was born on Wednesday in Ghana, West Africa, the Wednesday borns from the ethnic tribe of Afanti, I'm Afanti. My name is Ekua, that's the core root. And
Mm.
then in my language, the Kukua is spelled Kukua. But what I did, again, vision from God, I put the W in my name so I could trademark it. But the meaning
Mm.
of it in Swahili, East Africa, means to grow. I'm growing fitness, I'm growing health, I'm growing wellness. I'm just touching people. And that's my mission is to touch
Mhm.
people. To make them better, to touch people, to have a whole new outlook on life, to touch people, to better their lives. Okay, keep them out
Mm.
of the hospitals, keep them out of insanity, and just come back to reality of life. Connect with your
Mm.
spirit, which is your first being. Okay, so that being said, I then trademarked Boomsy, but I spell it Boombsey. So
Mhm.
Boomsy in the Caribbean, not spelled the way I spell it, a little different, means your butt. So I'm a
Mm.
linguist and I speak so many languages, and I did my homework again. I went through how do you say butt, the core, the butt, the
Mhm.
butt that connects to the core. And so many languages just came up, but they were not cute. Only the Caribbean, what boomsy. And I said, I like that word. But once again, vision, I spelt it differently in order for me to trademark it. So then when you say move your boomsy, you're moving your entire core that's connected to your butt, because that's the core where the pelvic tilts, and that is the key movement of African dance.
Wow. I love that. And you just dropped such a beautiful gem. Like, we have to trademark our stuff.
Yes.
And And I love that you just spoke to being led by spirit,
Yes,
right? Like, and knowing that this is what you needed to call your work.
yes,
And which and what a great catchphrase. You use it in your classes. No one else can use it because you have trademarked it so you can
right.
monetize on it. And so for anybody's that's out there, that's a creative, that's an entrepreneur, make sure that you are protecting your work with tenacity because it's too valuable not to, and allow yourself to do things a little bit different in order to attract whatever it is that you're looking to attract. So that was what a beautiful gem that you just dropped.
Ah, thank you.
So Kukuwa Fitness was your very first line of business, right? You said yes to it. There was a time when you were teaching in the upwards of 7 classes a day. You shared with me, blows
Yes.
my mind where you started in the beginning. And you were making a pretty fruitful life then, and it's really grown, right, astronomically since then. So then came Africa with Us travel, and then came Africa with Us Foundation. So, talk to us about the natural progression of these bodies of work.
Okay. So yes, Kukuwa Fitness is my first baby. And Kukuwa Fitness, so again, trademark, I named it Kukuwa LLC. That way
Mm.
it's an umbrella with all these three companies come under it. Okay.
Hmm.
That way, business wise, taxes, the whole 9 yards, you've got it covered. All right.
Yes.
So, Kukuwa LLC birth, first of all, Kukuwa Fitness. And Kukuwa Fitness, once upon a time when I started it in the 80s, 1980s, I was teaching just one here, two here because I had a job.
Hmm.
But then somewhere down the line, my classes grew so fast and so popular. I had to leave my job, which I wanted to anyway, because my passion was burning. And I started teaching 7 classes a day,
Mm.
to back to back to back from 9 o'clock in the morning to the evening. I was just going back to back teaching 7 classes. I now believe God gave me, birthed me, and gave me the energy I have. Because
Mhm.
even now in my 60s, that energy is the same as what I had then when I was 20. I
I
don't
love
see
it.
any difference. So I was going back to back teaching these classes, and I was in the Washington, D.C. area. And
Mhm.
so I was teaching all of the Department of Energy, I mean, name it, I was teaching it. And
Mhm.
I was getting a little to the point, I did that by myself for 5 years, 5 straight years. Then my brother-in-law had mentioned to me that, whoa, Kukwa, we're not going to have you too long if you keep doing this because that's a lot. And I said, yeah,
Mhm.
but it didn't faze me. I
Mhm.
wrote a book. I wrote a manual in how do you become a Kukua certified instructor. Being a
Mhm.
professor, of course, I also wrote all the 100 questionnaire in there so that you take a test to understand, get certified, and then I did, excuse me, videos that show you the program and what body parts you're moving, what the meaning is, and so on
Mhm.
and so forth. So now I have a certification program, which then
Wow.
brought in instructors today from all over the globe, all walks of life. We have instructors who now also have jobs. They can teach it in their country, in their state, wherever they are. And
Wow.
they're plugged into Kukua Fitness, so they get their music and they get their choreography on a regular basis. So
That's amazing.
that was that, and that was then. 2010, Oprah Winfrey endorsed me as the number one workout, the best workout in the year, 2010, Oprah magazine. And then I went from there, of course, teaching, being on all the TV shows and magazines. And then came Michelle Obama, and a friend of her, friends of hers that had taken my class said, "Oh, you should try Kukuwa." And she said, "Well, what's that?" And
Mhm.
so they invited me to the White House, but of course, not without a background check and all of that I had to do, and sign an NDA, the whole 9 yards. So I went in
Wow.
there, and here I am and teaching the first lady. Then when she was in office, I could not take pictures and do all that. It's not
Mhm.
allowed. But she fell in love. with Kukuwa Fitness and said, whoa, I feel like I went back to Africa. And I know that she and Barack have been to Africa. They went to Ghana as well. They have a plaque
Wow.
there to show it.
Hmm.
But saying all this to say that she then endorsed it and said, this is the workout of that ever I've taken that works my entire total body. So that's
Wow.
another thing. And then I went from there to teaching it and multiplying it and teaching it all over. Then what happens in our classes? We take you to Africa without your passport. Because when you're in a class, we say, let's go to Kenya, let's go to
Mm.
Ghana, let's go to Morocco, Rwanda, let's go to, and we're calling the countries, and you're feeling like, whoa, with the music, it gives you the atmosphere of being in that country, but you haven't moved. You're in one spot without your passport. So we
Mhm.
birthed, let's go to Africa with your passport because everybody kept saying, Kukuwa, we want to go to Africa. We want to go to Africa. By this time, about 2015, my daughters had come to join me. They had gone to
Mhm.
their school, colleges, they got their degrees, and they said, Ma, we're working out, but we want to work with you. We've been
Mhm.
working in other companies, but we want to work with you. So I
Mhm.
said, okay, let's do this. So I did not ask. They joined me. So then they brought in, I call it the youngness of Africa. I have the tradition and the oldness of Africa, and they brought in the Afrobeat and the youngness of Africa. We married the two together,
Mhm.
and our program just shot up. And so we started offering trips to Africa to actually have people experience the countries, the food, the culture, the people, the music of that
Mhm.
country. So we cover all the 54 countries now, and this is our 10th anniversary this year,
Yeah.
2025. We're celebrating. So from the Kukuwa Fitness workout, we birthed Kukuwa African trips, okay, concentrated in Africa. Then,
Mhm.
when we took people to the trips, we started doing community service where we go out into the communities and the underprivileged areas, the orphanages, and we see the children and spend time with them, which you have experienced firsthand with us.
Mhm.
And people were like so taken by it and wanted to help. So we were actually taking care of them ourselves, but we needed help. And people wanted to offer by either paying money, maybe donations, or sending clothes or school supplies or even pads for the women that don't have pads
Mhm.
in the villages,
Mhm.
and so on and so forth. The list is long. So we opened up a foundation,
Mhm.
Africa with Us Foundation. And we put in the ability for people to donate. You can donate anywhere from $1 to whatever you want because
Mhm.
that money's, it's a nonprofit. That's the
Mhm.
nonprofit. The other two companies are profit. But we concentrate on the nonprofit to give back. That way, we know that we can write it off as a nonprofit, and people can also get a statement for their taxes at the end of the year so that they
Mhm.
don't feel like, oh, I gave all this money. What do I do? Secondly, we send
Mhm.
you videos, and we send you videos to update what your money is doing in these countries.
Yeah. Yeah, this was one of the things that I think I had been to Africa 3 times prior to my trip with you all. And what I knew to be true about my experience with you all was that it was distinctly different than any other escorted travel I had ever taken to Africa. And I wish I had known about you all long before, right, when I took that very first trip. And even though anyone can travel with you, what felt very sacred to me is that I was in space with all BIPOC. I was in space with people, with indigenous folks. I was in space with all people that looked like me, except for one, which was also one of my indigenous sisters who traveled with us. So 18 brown, latte, cinnamon, all of the beautiful shades, right, that
Yes,
come from our people were
yes.
present in that space, which made it that much more special. But then that service trip that you talked about, that your foundation supported, that was also something that felt very unique to my experience. And I'll never forget that. And I shared with you, I have this picture of me holding one of the children there, and we had such a beautiful bond, and she fell asleep in my arms.
I remember.
And that moment will live with me forever. For
Yeah.
I will never forget that. Not to mention the ways that that experience shaped me and what I decided that I wanted to do next, right, with some of my work. And
Yes.
so, but what I also want to say really quickly, Mama Kooks, is that what's beautiful about your journey is that you stayed the course.
Yes.
You worked hard and you paid attention to every opportunity that laid before you, from God speaking to you to give you a nudge about trademarking,
Right.
to that moment that you had that you listened to, like the lack of sustainability that dance, like
Mhm.
you knew that you couldn't sustain it even though you felt good. Our
Yes.
bodies are still only capable of so many things,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And even if you had done that consistently, you couldn't have grown it to what it is today, right? It would have just been Mama Kook's teaching, right?
Yes.
And you would have taught in all the ways and the demand would have been there. But from that to having a digital platform, to like just your willingness to put in the work to
Yes.
co-create this beautiful life that defied all of the things that you were told, and you did it anyway,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
you've done it the Mama Kook's way.
Okay, I was just gonna say yes. I did it. I did it my
Yeah.
way.
And this is very important because we all have an individualized pathway of
Yes.
abundance.
Yes.
And all we have to do is listen.
Yes.
All we have to do is be in connection with spirit and have the courage to do the work necessary so that we can yield these really amazing results. I know that you never imagined, and maybe you did, right? That Oprah would say, this is the number one fitness in the world.
I know.
Or that First Lady would say, listen, this is it for me when it comes to fitness.
Yes.
And so knowing these things, like what were those moments like for you when these moments happen? And I'm sure there are countless other moments that were just like brought in the floodgates for you in terms of expansion.
Yes. So I've been a dreamer. If you remember, I mentioned that my siblings were like, "Yeah, you're some daydreamer." They used to
Mhm.
say, "I've been a dreamer ever since I was born, but huge dreamer. I think big. I imagine big, and my communication and my relationship with God is number one. I say that
Mm.
because through my spirit, because God is spirit, and for me, the communication is spirit directly. He can speak to me straight, direct in my spirit, and I know I got to do this. Okay.
Yes.
Turn to Him every corner. And for me, that is what has brought me the success that it's brought me in what we're talking about. My
Mhm.
my passion again is it was the fitness. The fitness took to the travel, which is still going on. But now that third piece is really tugging on my heart where I need to feed the children. I need to take
Mm.
care of them. I mean, we've built toilets, we've built water for
Mhm.
villages, for communities. We've brought schools and schools where children were sitting on the floor, and we brought tables and
Mhm.
blackboards into there. And for me, that is the highlight and the ultimate because somebody needs to do it, and I want to be the one to do it. And with the
Yes.
help of all the people and the travelers that we take with us, that is the help we have. We hardly really advertise it if you've noticed. It's
We,
just
This
the
is
people
true. And
that
I was, this is what we've been talking about,
yeah,
right?
that's
And,
what we've
and
been
I
talking about.
literally just had this thought from one of the villages that we visited where you did provide clean drinking water to this village. And we
Yes,
got to hear from the chief and what I where my head went, and you know this about me because we've spent enough time together, is
yes,
man, or woman or whomever, we need to tell these stories.
yeah,
We have to tell these stories
no,
because I'm sure there are countless stories.
yes,
And I love that you said that at this iteration, based on where you're at, and because you've experienced abundance in your for-profit businesses, that you now it's like, okay, yes, we have this foundation, but there's more. There's more, and we're
Yeah,
going to do more. And I know we can do more. And I'm so excited about what that more is going to look like,
what
right?
more
As we move
like?
forward, because the work is too important for you not to have the adequate support that you need to be able
Absolutely.
to transform these lives in small but deeply meaningful ways. Because when we talk about a village having access to clean water, we're not talking about a huge investment,
No,
right? But
no,
we're also talking about something that will pay it forward for
yes.
generations to come,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes. And let me tell you, that village you went to, Impisi village, that's the one that we built a borehole there in in Zimbabwe, where we
Mm-hmm.
built the
Mm-hmm.
borehole for him. And that they were, there was a lake right there. I don't know if you noticed it. It had brown water in there. They were boiling the water to cook. They were boiling the water to drink. They were bathing with the water. And we said, no, 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 this cannot be. We built the
Mm-hmm.
borehole. The whole borehole cost $5,000. So
Mm-hmm.
we got money. We built that borehole. Do you know how many villages surrounded it? And you know how it took us to get there, meandering to get there. Now all around, we have about 17 villages that feed off that water. And to
Wow.
me makes the difference for me, the satisfaction. And then in Kenya, we have also in an orphanage 300 children we take care of, and the water came. They have tin roof shelters, that's where they sleep. The water came and just swept it all away. I was sleeping, and all of a sudden I'm hearing children crying, Mama Cooks, Mama Cooks, Mama Cooks. I get up, and Cassie said, Ma, did you know what happened? I said, what happened? This is what happened. The water had wiped out all of them, and they were calling me to help them. Mama
Oh
Cooks
my
need help.
gosh. Ah,
And so that's where I need the help, to have people help us to be able to take it. Let's build new shelters for these people so that the rain won't wash them out again. Not only do they need food or clothing or shoes for their feet and so on and so forth, but just even somewhere to lay their head, you know,
mm.
and even a school fees is only about $100 a whole year. Here in America, $100 for somebody to go to school in
We
Africa
waste $100 on a dinner. You know what
on a
I mean?
dinner,
Like
on
it's
a dinner, on a dinner. So,
yes,
so
yes,
that's my passion when it comes to that. And for us, the travel that we've done in the last 10 years has really been worth it for us. We're opening the eyes of people who did not know about Africa. You know,
mm,
we're introducing different parts of Africa to them so that they understand Africa. They really know, especially for our African brothers and sisters, they now know where they came from. You know, we do
mm.
all kinds of groups. We do all different types of groups, but it is so good to get to the foundation, the bottom, the roots of where you just came from, you know,
Yeah.
and how it works. So these travel has really, really brought help that we need, but that's the only help we're getting through the travels. So
Yeah.
we need more help when it
Yep.
comes.
And we're gonna and you're gonna get it. And we're claiming it. You and I have been talking about
Yes,
all of the
yes,
things. It's coming,
coming.
and I'm excited about what that's gonna look like for you and what that will mean for Africa and all of its beauty, right? And all of the challenges that the beautiful people of Africa are faced with, and the small, significant ways that we can do more to make sure that we are not only connecting to the motherland,
Right.
but that we are investing
Yes,
in the motherland, right?
yes,
It's so
yes,
important.
yes.
So when we first met, and we're winding down here, but a couple more things I want to touch bases with you on. So we talked about the many healing practices indigenous to Africa. I mean, the fact that your grandmother again lived to be 120, and
Yes.
the reality is that you, as you shared with me, it's not out of the norm
Mhm.
for Africans to live right for much longer than what the average period is of life, right? And so, and in fact, so much so that we talked about that when we have highlighted areas where the most centurions live in the world, Africa's never talked about. And that's in part, I think, by design. And we're going to be talking about that in just a minute. So, what
Yes.
I want to know is about the many indigenous practices that derive from Africa,
Mhm.
because they're not known to much of the world,
Right.
and what the most significant practices have been for you,
Mm,
and why we don't credit Africa as fully as we should for their role in healing.
okay. So to begin with, between you and I'm sure the world, Asia is really noticed, and people talk about, oh, when you go to Japan, they live long. When you go here, they live long, and but never do they talk about Africa. Africa has been literally covered for so long. People don't know Africa. And Demarra, when I talk about Africa, we wanted to make a difference because we saw that people travel to Europe, they travel to America, they travel to Latin America, India, they go to Australia, they go everywhere. Hello, Africa, where are we?
Mm,
So we
yes.
wanted to make a difference. We wanted to bring people to Africa, to open Africa to them firsthand. That's why
Mhm.
we call it Africa with us. Come to
Mm,
Africa with us. Let us hold your hand. Let us take you in and teach you what Africa's all about. Number
mhm.
one, I mentioned my great grandmother lived to be 120. That is not unheard of in Africa. In the villages of Africa, there are people that live very old. Why? Because number one, they still drink the well waters. You see a well, which you know in the Bible, they say a well, and Jesus was at the well and, pulling the water, and the woman came to the well. They still do that in the villages of Africa. We have
Mm,
wells, okay? So she's drinking that good water from
mm,
the ground. Okay, number one. Number two, they grow everything that they eat. They grow
mm,
everything. They have their own gardens. They grow everything. And we call them the forest of growth because it's in my great grandmother used to put the stuff on her head and go to the forest for the day to bring all the fruits and vegetables and
mhm.
that had for the meal of the day.
Yeah.
And they cook from scratch. So they
Mm,
don't put any preservatives in their food. Everything is real. If it is salt, it's sea salt.
mm,
If it is oil, then we grow from the Middle East and from Northern Africa. We
mhm,
grow olives. So the olive oil comes from there. Literally, everything comes from the land that God has given us. Okay.
mm.
And they cook from scratch. That's another thing. Number two, they actually detox their body on a regular basis. People don't do that. With my travel around the world, I've noticed people don't do that. I grew up, we were seven siblings, but every weekend, my great grandmother, my grandmother, my mother would say, we got to detox these kids. We were hardly sick. They would do an enema that cleanses your colon and your gut. So it's
Wow.
bringing out all the sicknesses. Anything that's been piled up in there is coming out. Okay. So
Mm,
you are clean. And they do it
mhm.
often. It's not every day, but maybe every week or every other week. They're going to do it to have you not be sick. Right.
Wow.
All the herbs and spices that come from Africa that people talk about, it's true. When you take moringa, moringa comes from the moringa leaves. They grow in the north of Ghana, for instance. When you talk about baobab, the baobab tree is one tree that grows in entire motherland of Africa. That is the baobab. The benefits of baobab, it's another story altogether. The benefits of moringa. Now, neem will kill anything on contact, be it malaria, be it COVID, be it, you can name it. Why? Because of the leaves. The leaves are so potent. You go outside, you grab the neem. They don't have neem in America. Maybe they do. I have not seen it, but in Africa,
Mhm.
everywhere. We grab it, we wash it, and we boil it and we drink it. It is the worst tasting thing, but it will kill everything in your body that's harming you, like Ebola or SARS or any of that. It will kill it.
Wow.
We have medicine that still exists today that actually have not even been discovered. And my great grandmother taught us as much as she could. Remember, they didn't write books then. I wrote
Mhm.
4 books so that I can at least have something going, helping out. When my daughter
Mhm.
was given 2 weeks to live, I went back to the traditional way of medicine, the traditional, original way of medicine, naturopathic way of medicine, holistic way of medicine. That's how African people live. Now, that's another story in itself, another talk for you and I,
Wow.
that, because there's so much more to it. But just to cap it all today, is exactly what I've told you. They detox their body, they grow everything themselves, they drink the good water from the well, and then we bathe with this like a net the fishermen go to
Mhm.
get you exfoliate your body each time you're using it. So then your body is like baby skin. It's like, you know,
Mm.
you're constantly taking care of inside and outside of your body,
Wow.
constantly.
And not to mention that, the things that you didn't name explicitly, but have been a part of themes that we've talked about today, dancing,
Mhm.
right? You talk about the connectivity, right? Clearly, these are very tight connections within your family, within the
Yes.
village,
Mhm.
right? I can only imagine the joyful moments, the activities, how you all engage with each other, which is a part as well
Yes.
of vitality, of well-being. And so, yes, we are definitely going to get back together and do a deeper dive about African indigenous healing practices and all the things that we still need to learn from Africa about how to take care of our outer and our inner selves. And so, thank you so much for giving us that at a really high level, Mama Kuks. So, as we wrap up, before you tell folks all the ways that they can stay in touch with you,
Mhm.
whether they have been working towards their healing and liberation or just getting started, why should they choose to travel with a company like yours?
So whether they have been to Africa or not, whether they have heard or read about it, I think going in person is so key
Mm,
because you did, you experienced firsthand. Remember, North Africa, South Africa, East Africa, West Africa, Central Africa, we all offer something different. But
mhm,
the bottom line is we educate you, okay, the roots of your being. It's
mhm,
the roots of your being. The education is so rich. The education is so organic that when you go, wow, I didn't know that. Oh, wow, I never knew that because it's not taught outside to
mhm,
everybody. But you go there and you learn from the African people, their way of life. I think that they should travel with Africa with us because you're traveling with mother-daughter team that actually were born and raised there. So they
come
know
on.
Africa inside out. In my 60s, I've traveled extensively, extensively, 80% literally of the world. But when it comes to Africa, I know it well. And you
Mhm,
want to go with us. We do our homework. We prepare for you. We make sure that you meet the indigenous people. We take you to the villages. We make
mhm,
sure that you get to know the culture of the people, the food, the language, and you're
mhm.
learning. It's an educational trip as
Yeah.
you self experience. We have people who have traveled with us through all the regions of Africa because they keep coming back for more.
Mhm,
All right.
mhm,
But just bottom line, educate yourself. Allow yourself to know more about Africa. Okay. Africa is not just a continent that's way down there. Now Africa is so close to you, as is the US or Europe or any other country that you come from. Africa's that close. Africa will open its wings to you when you allow it in.
mhm. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Mama Coots. This was such a enriching conversation. I just have so much love for you and just who you are and how you show up in the world. So with that, let folks know how they can stay in touch with you.
So we have three websites, but one website also connects all three. Kukuwa, Kukuwa Fitness .com, kukuwafitness.com. That's the main website where you will have Africa with us. It's another website, but you can also get it from the Kukuwa Fitness. And
Mhm,
that's the travel, Africa with us. And
mhm,
then Africa with Us Foundation is where you can donate to help us keep taking care of Africa children, orphanages, and so on and so forth. If you need to reach out to us, info at kukuwafitness.com. You can email us directly. We can answer your questions. Any questions you have, be it on the travel, be it on the exercises, be it on the donations, whatever. Last but not the least, you have got to exercise. I say you have got to move your boomsy.
Come
We do
on.
have a platform that is also on the website, kukuwafitness.com. It is right above the very top. It says workout online. You can't
Mhm,
miss it. Last but not the least, we do have all the social media channels:
mhm,
YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. We have them all.
mm.
Again, Kukuwa Fitness would take you to any of them.
Beautiful. Well, I know for sure folks are going to want to connect with you. And I am just grateful. So, so, so grateful for this conversation. So, I want to share my deep gratitude for all of you tuning in today. I hope that the insights shared by myself and Mama Kooks have opened new pathways toward your own healing and liberation. If either one of us can assist you on your journey, do not hesitate to reach out in all the ways that Mama Kooks has shared, along with on all of our platforms. In addition to that, be sure to tune in to the 100+ additional episodes that we have on the Be Well Beautiful People podcast. And if you found value in today's episode, show us some love by telling all of the people you know about it. Rate our YouTube channel, along with whatever podcast platform you use, including Spotify, Amazon, and Apple. You're also always welcome to share your thoughts with us directly at info@bewellbeautifulpeople.org. And if you haven't picked up my memoir, Me Too, A Therapist's Journey to Heal, Find Liberation and Joy, I invite you to grab your copy at demarrawest.com. We're going to leave you with the words of Mariah Numbu. When I dance the African way, I show my feelings with my body instead of hiding them in my heart. When I dance, I know I'm alive here and now. My body and soul are in harmony. Until next time, beautiful people, Ashe.